FreePeoplesPoultry.com has both the chickens and supplies you need to raise your own poultry.
Would you like pets who produce eggs you can barter with? Your own source of clean meat?
A swan on your pond to make your home strikingly beautiful?
How about some pheasants and quail roaming in your woods for enjoyment? If so, check out purelypoultry.com.
6%? 7%? That's a lot of money. I might as well just do it myself. Well, that might be true, if a lot of that money you're paying a real estate broker is going toward outdated methods, unnecessary fancy offices, and overpaying executives for a lifetime of service. But you don't need to go that route. Silver Compass Realty is a full-service real estate brokerage serving all of South Central Wisconsin, and the commission is negotiable. Silver Compass will explain exactly what they're going to do to help you buy or sell a home, how that will help you reach your goals, and stand right beside you every step of the way. They want to be your broker, your expert, even when you're not in the middle of a transaction. Silver Compass Realty, helping you find your way home. Contact them today at silvercompassrealty.com or call 608-361-8608. Silver Compass Realty, helping you find your way home.
Burger House 41 is open at 1860 West Mason in Green Bay. You're invited to indulge in one of life's simplest pleasures, a great burger. We're grilling up 15 fresh signature burgers and have over 30 craft beers for the perfect pairing. Experience Wisconsin's best flavors, including white cheddar cheese curds, a variety of specialty sandwiches, milkshakes, and gourmet frozen custard. Burger House 41 at 1860 West Mason is open at 11 a.m. daily. Taste Wisconsin. Taste amazing.
Welcome back to the Free People Show. We're at freepeopleshow.com. If you're watching on Facebook, you're only hearing my audio. You're not hearing the audio of our gracious interviewee, Matt Bughman, veteran of Milwaukee law enforcement, who's joining us via Skype. So if you want to hear all the audio in good quality, mixed by an expert engineer at the tender age of 16 years old, he's a genius at mixing already, go to freepeopleshow.com. Patronize the links on that page, especially the Amazon link. Very easy to do, doesn't cost you a dime. You can help support the show in that way. So we're back, and one of the things that we haven't talked about yet is the situation in Milwaukee. As we know, the police officer who shot and killed Sylville Smith was acquitted on charges just yesterday, I believe, or the day before. No, it was yesterday. And that is not completely, on its face, it looks somewhat similar. As Matt pointed out, it's a person of color shooting another person of color, a minority shooting another minority, a cop shooting a civilian or whatever. But the facts in the case are vastly different. And in the whitewashing that the media does and that politicians use to put forth an agenda and get people divided and all worked up and get votes and et cetera, forward their causes, it's very easy for them to sort of whitewash and say all police are bad or all people of color are bad or make all these crazy observations and false conclusions from this, when in fact, if you look at the facts of the cases, those two specific ones, the Philando Castile shooting and the Sylville Smith shooting, they are quite different. And I'm going to let Matt tell us how.
All right. Yeah, I mean, it's a completely separate case unto itself. The facts of this one, it was two Milwaukee officers. They see Mr. Smith. I believe they see him sitting in a car that's illegally parked. I think the way it was described is that they believe he's doing a drug transaction. They go to stop him. He gets out to run. And you have to remember, this whole thing transpires over, I think the court document said about 12 seconds. There's a foot chase. Mr. Smith slips and falls. A gun falls out. He picks up the gun, and as he's picking it up, the officer, Mr. Hegan Brown, fires one shot through his arm. Mr. Smith throws the firearm, and then there's a 1 second delay, or 1.6 second delay, and there's a second shot that kills Mr. Smith. It's all captured on body camera from both officers, so the whole thing is captured. Initially, I want to say that everything was, kind of like, hey, this is a legitimate shoot. No charges were initially filed. But what ended up coming out that kind of made this kind of all tricky is that Officer Egan Brown got brought up on some sexual assault charges. That I guess occurred several days after this incident happened.
Uh-huh.
And so this kind of, in the opinion of some, kind of made, I think people thought it kind of made some low-hanging fruit and an easy, maybe an easy target for maybe the DA's office for a charge to be brought up. It was taken to court, and they brought up the case of they brought it up, and they gave two possible outcomes. I think it was intentional homicide, and then, kind of like a manslaughter type charge. I think was the second charge.
Mm-hmm.
So they gave the jury an option, but what they said was that the first shot was justifiable, the second shot was not. So he said within that 1.6 seconds, everything changed. He couldn't shoot. He couldn't make the shoot. So it was like I said, kind of a night and day difference where you got the whole thing, because it's on body camera, you could see the whole thing kind of unfold, as opposed to Mr. Castile's, the one in Minnesota, where you're kind of getting bits and pieces. You got the live stream that occurs after, and you got the squad video that you can only see from the outside.
So did the officer in Milwaukee act how he was trained? Did he perform?
That's what they say. I mean, that's what they're saying. Yes, and
okay.
I can't say one way or the other, but I mean, in that situation,
training, right? So
I've been trained, yes, and he did. He acted. I mean, he saw a target. He was presented what he believed to be a threat, and he discharged his weapon.
Yeah, and I agree with you that the cases are completely different, and I haven't seen the body camera footage of the Sylville Smith shooting, but to my understanding, it's exactly how you described it. Of course, you're a professional at describing things like this, so it should be. But, completely different situation, and I guess there was even some question as to whether, at least in the officer's opinion, and other officers' opinions, whether he was actually trying to throw his weapon or something else was going on. And the very short amount of time that took place, a chase, a weapon being visible, being presented, falling out, whatever, that's a completely, I mean, it's still tragic for everybody
absolutely.
involved.
I mean, and that's the thing.
But it's a different set of circumstances.
Yeah, but exactly, different set of circumstances.
So do you?
It's unfortunate.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
In your work in law enforcement, how does it sort of go after these incidents? Have people sort of gotten accustomed to the fact that this sort of stuff happens every now and again? I think there's a general perception that there have been a lot of police shootings lately, and I think it's just been a lot more in the news lately than it used to be, and that there's a lot more political gain to be made by people, making noise about these situations. And it should be brought forward, the ones like in the case of Philando Castile that was a wrongful shooting, but there's a lot of people making a lot of noise about all of these situations, so we hear more about them. But in your day-to-day, or in the day-to-day of any police officer in Milwaukee or a similar city, have things changed a lot over the last few years as these have hit the news more?
I think you're 100% right. Is that these don't happen. This isn't a daily thing. There's a lot of good things that go on a daily basis, and these are rare, and these are like the worst nightmare, I think, for everybody, on both sides. And yeah, things do change. I think we were talking about the politicizing. Things do change. Like as soon as these things happen, everybody from whichever side, whether it's the left or the right, are mobilizing as soon as these things happen, and laying claim to one side or the other, and it makes it very hard, for people to go out and do their job, no matter what side you're on.
I'm sure it makes it very hard to select a jury too. Once people hear about these things right away and form opinions right away, or give opinions right away, that just make it very difficult to have impartial observers.
Yeah, for the DA's office or anybody else, or the defense attorney, it would make it very difficult to go forward with prosecution.
Yes. So, how do people feel about the police in Milwaukee County? I mean, what's your sense of the relationship in general between all of the units of law enforcement and the public, specifically in the areas that have had trouble lately? But is it? And the reason I ask is because there's been this movement towards community policing and making sure that populations are represented on police forces, which I think is all very good, because it's if there were all white cops patrolling an all black neighborhood, that could be lead to lots of misunderstandings and misinterpretations of events. Has that turned out to be better, or is there still a lot of tension regardless of the color of a police officer's skin?
I think from my experience, things have been good. You tend to run, like I said, you tend to run into there's going to be that group that no matter what you do, they're not going to care for law enforcement. But then there's plenty of people out there that know you're out there doing your job. The main thing is you have to go out there and you have to do your job properly, and then you don't have to worry about anything. But like I said, there are groups out there that no matter what, they're not going to care for the law enforcement, whether you're doing the right thing by them or not. But for the most part, I think people are receptive and happy with law enforcement in general in the Milwaukee County area.
Yeah, I think to the degree that they pay attention to how police are actually behaving around them and the actual things that happen on a day-to-day basis, and put less weight on what they're hearing on TV or on the on the internet or whatever. Believe the evidence of their own eyes, their own ears, their own relationships. I think then that leads to more understanding and more cooperation in when unpleasant situations arise. Is that what you found to be the case?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, good. Well, thanks for joining us tonight, Matt. I really, really appreciate it, and you did a very good job of sort of being circumspect and respectful of the difficult job and that you have, and that people like you have. And there are a lot of people out there, even amongst libertarians, who are very anti-police in general. There are a lot of libertarians that are pro-police in general, but I think the message that we're getting from you, and that from it's a kind of a neat thing that these cases came to a head at the same time, because it gives us an opportunity to compare the facts and say this is different from that Smith is different from Castile. There were different situations, and we can learn from that as people that really just want the opportunity for people to live their lives as they choose, as long as they're not infringing on the ability of other people to do the same thing. And insofar as we need government and law enforcement to that appropriately fit into that, if it does, and to not get sort of swept up into this whitewashing of the police are all this way, people of color are all this way, people in this town are all this way, et cetera, et cetera. That is the politics that we're fighting against as libertarians, the politics of identity, the politics of division, the same politics that the Belgians played on the Hutus and the Tutsis, which they invented when they colonized Africa back in the 19th century. This is all just a political ploy, divide and conquer, point out differences, and wasn't any better expressed than in the Star-Bellied Sneetches. So I suggest, if you guys out there have not read the Star-Bellied Sneetches by Dr. Seuss, that you read it, because it's a perfect parable on how government creates divisions one way or another and then exploits them. Political parties exploit them. Thanks for joining us, Matt. We'll talk to you again soon. I'd like to thank everybody involved with the show tonight, and thank for all you who listened and your patience. We were about 10 minutes late, but we recovered gracefully. We will be doing this show out of a different location starting next week. Just need to get some technical difficulties worked out, but we won't be here, but we'll keep you updated as to how that's going to play out. Please go to freepeopleshow.com if you're not there already and hit our links, especially use the Amazon link and do your Amazon shopping there to help the show out a little bit. Again, thanks to everybody who's participated. Thanks to Miles, thanks to Matt Bughman, to Samuel, to Miles, thank you twice, Rhonda Powell, Dustin Dreyfus, and all our show contributors. We'll be back on Tuesday with the show. freepeopleshow.com. Thanks for listening.